Welcome to the Raymore City Council work session for Monday, June the 4th. We have a couple of items on the agenda tonight, the first being the joint meeting between the City Council and the Park Board, and I'd like to turn it over to staff at this time. Mr. Fearborn.
Thank you, Your Honor. From an administrative standpoint, staff just wants to report to the Park Board and to the City Council. This is in June every other year. There is the requirement by the MOU that you all come together to discuss any elements of the MOU that might be of interest to you or that you would want to have a discussion on possibly changing. I do know Mr. Mustine has informed me that the Park Board has already met on the MOU and is recommending to the council that they have no changes that they would like to see. From a staff perspective, we feel the MOU is working very, very good right now. I think everybody has a real good understanding of it. Mr. Mustine from his side feels the same. So with that being said, that's kind of the administrative layout, and so I would turn it back over to you, sir, to if there are any other issues that anybody would like to bring up.
Well, let's start off with Mr. Mustine. Why don't you go ahead and introduce your Park Board members that were able to be with us tonight.
We have our Vice Chair, Steve Troutman, here tonight, Michelle Seamers, Jenny Sapola, Melinda Howdy-Shell. We have 2 members that have recently resigned and 2 that are absent.
Right, and I understand there'll be some reappointments that will be occurring in 2 weeks, I believe.
Yes, we have 3 appointments that are up for renewal in a couple weeks.
All right. Okay.
3 are absent, I'm sorry.
Right.
Yes, Mr. Eastwood.
All right, well, I would turn it over to any member from the council that wish to discuss anything with regarding the parks, or any of the Park Board members that might have anything in addition to the MOU at this time. Anyone? No? Well, I know you guys have got a lot of work on your plate, or a lot on your plate, because there's a lot going on in the park. I know Mr. Mustine and I have talked along with Mr. Fearborn on several occasions about the progress of projects that are going on. We're excited about getting started on the park, Hawk Ridge Park, when that comes together. I know that very soon we're going to be entering into a phase where we'll be working with the organization to raise money for the special use parks or a playground. It's not this proper terminology. What's the proper terminology for that playground?
All inclusive.
All inclusive. Thank you very much. So I know that that's keeping you guys busy. We had a little hiccup on the Memorial Park Trail. Got that all fixed. Ballards are going in. That's a good thing. So we'll hopefully prevent any kind of silliness like that occurring in the future. I know the RAC is progressing very well.
Very, very shortly, we hope to take all of you on a joint tour, just like we did with Centerview. Of the RAC. I was actually going to try to get the mayor over there for just kind of a one-on-one real quick walkthrough. That's not going to be able to occur tomorrow, but we're going to be getting you all in there probably in the next couple of weeks. You'll see an invite go out. It'll be the same as Centerview for a late afternoon. This one will be more than likely, unlike Centerview, will probably necessitate construction hats, because they're just not quite that far along yet to where we can be in there without those, according to OSHA rules. At this point in time, sir, if you're okay, we may as well, instead of under other, relative to the Memorial Park issue and the invitation that I was talking to you about earlier.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Mr. Icky.
Thank you, sir. Wanted to just take the opportunity to invite everyone to the official ribbon cutting for many of the amenities that are going to be opening at Memorial Park this summer. We'll be holding what we have, I think, playfully called a rolling ribbon cutting. We have a lot of new amenities, probably about, what, Nathan, 10 new amenities that are going to be opening at Memorial Park, and that includes the trail, the extended parking, the mural through the Arts Commission, as well as some other items around the baseball field. And we wanted to be able to celebrate and recognize all of these items in the park. And so we'll be holding multiple ribbon cuttings on a single day. On Thursday, June 21st at 4:30 p.m. We'll start on the west side of Memorial Park, opening the Arboretum, and then we will move into the park and through the trail and to the east side where the new Arts Commission historical mural is. And we'll kind of cut ribbons throughout the park. And this will also kick off a great campaign through the Parks Department and the Communications Department, where we're going to be inviting our residents to rediscover Memorial Park. As one of our oldest parks, we think it's a great opportunity to invite our residents to rediscover the park and the new amenities and some of the great new things that'll be opening out there.
Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr.
Can you
Keller.
tell me what time that official start time is?
We'll start at 4:30.
4:30, that's what I thought I heard.
No, Mr. Holman.
Probably for Mr. Mustine, I wanted to thank you and Parks Board. The new trail system recreation park is really impressive, not just from a standpoint of infrastructure, but it's very operationally effective. You can park pretty much anywhere there. If you want to go to a ball game, everybody doesn't have to cram down into that southeast parking lot because you've got trails that lead right off the parking lot going in. That was a stroke of brilliance. Really impressed with that. We still have a little bit of issue with everybody coming in and wanting to jam into that southeast parking lot for ball games and then coming back across. I didn't know if maybe you had a future plan or it's contingent on something else or something in capital funds to address people coming up, because as you know, they come up out of that parking lot and then they walk up that short section of the road against traffic and people stop there. And I know it's not an easy one from an engineering standpoint, but I didn't know if you had anything in mind for the future on that one.
We have internally discussed a couple ideas. I haven't approached the park board with it yet, but some striping, caution striping for the crosswalk there from the baseball entrance to the playground. We also explored some just speed bumps right in that area, but as far as that, we haven't gone any further than just internal discussion. Mike Crass, Greg Rokos, and myself and my staff just talking about some ideas that we can slow that down. The first real attempt at deterring that was the new trail system, to see how much it would spread the parking through both parking lots and get the people out of the parking lot as fast as possible.
It did help quite a bit. I think it's a great first step. Like I said, I was very impressed, and you starting to see people the parking to disperse a little bit, but we still have the human behaviors learn, and people have over the years have jammed into that southeast parking lot, and then they walk back up along the road system, and we get that little bottleneck there from where the two major parking lots are connected. So probably something in the future we're going to have to look at. But this is great. It's really nice. Thank you.
Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And welcome, I'll thank the Park Board for meeting with us tonight. One thing that I think is worthy of beginning discussion is, I know we've discussed this in the past, but I'd kind of like to see it get a little more discussion, hopefully take track with Hawk Ridge Park coming online and things that are going to be happening there. I think it is more appropriate now than in times past. You know, it's getting more intimate, not intimate, intimate of a subject of getting pedestrian, bicycle, exercising to be able to cross 58 from the south to the north and from the north to the south, that interconnectivity. It's always been a struggle for us, you know, because of 58, what it is, the physical situation. But I would like to have some discussions or start thinking about some different things that we might be able to do, some creativity around a couple of the intersections that might help it be a little more safer, bring a little more attention to the traffic on 58 in the case that there is some pedestrian traffic or bicycling traffic crossing 58. You know, just the one thing that come to my mind over the last few months, you know, especially after last year walking extensively like I did, one thing that I thought of was a decorative, a dressed up intersection with something that brings attention to the crosswalks, or something that would help facilitate the attention of the drivers that there could possibly be something there. You know, I would love to see a tunnel go under or a walking bridge go over. We've discussed that, and both of those are prohibitive. You know, the cost is just so astronomical. But I've seen us, you know, over the years come up with innovative ways that actually beautify our city in ways that actually help the safety. You know, I believe the crosswalk up on Huntsman, that we've got the expansion going on all the way down 58, is very good for that in that way. And that's why I throw out that suggestion. Not saying that's the only thing there is. There's a lot of good people around here, and we've come up with a lot of good things over the past. That's why I'm saying I think it just is a good time to start thinking seriously and talking about that subject. So I would love to be able to walk or ride my bicycle safely across 58. And I know that I'm not the only one, so.
Mr. Fearborn, do you have a response?
And the CIP is actually being expanded for presentation to the council. The council member brought up that those crosswalks, like what is it, Huntsman, that draw your attention to it and help to beautify it, are proposed for the east-west, but Mr. Crass was tasked at the beginning of this CIP to figure out a way to do the exact same thing going across. And he's got some pretty interesting ideas associated with that that do the same thing, look the same, but they provide a safety element as well. So,
Okay, great. We'll look forward to that. Anyone else? Well, if not, I appreciate you all being here tonight, and thank you for your looking into the MOU and your passage on that to move us forward again for the next couple of years with our relationship. So, and thank you for all the hard work that you do. We appreciate you being here tonight too. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the mayor and city council compensation. I'll go ahead and take this one. I had hopefully gotten to each of you a packet of information that I had put together with my unskilled math capabilities. I did ask staff to kind of double look at my facts and figures, and what we came up with was a chart that would provide a more demonstrative indication of the justification that I had previously given over the past for the past 22 years of very little, if any, change. As you know, in 1997, the council pay was set at $325 a month, and the mayor's pay was set at $550. It's only creeped up $25 for the council and $50 for the mayor. But if you go back to those original statistics, you'll see that using the average wage index and putting those same calculations to those amounts, the left column representing in 2019 what that would end up applying to, which is an average of 2.83% per year. And then the same thing for the mayor, at 2.76% pay increase per year adjustment. So what I'm suggesting to the group is $600 for the city council and $1,000 a month for the mayor's compensation. No additional compensations for phone or vehicle or additional meetings or anything like that, just that. But with that justification, along with the additional work that has come forward over the past several years, as you know, we almost have weekly meetings now, and others of us have additional meetings during the day and at the night during the month. I think it does justify us taking a look at and adjusting under my recommendation to those amounts. And I know you guys have had a chance probably to look at the packet that I provided. Hopefully that did provide you with initial justification for this, but I would certainly open it up for any discussion that any of you might have this evening. Ms. Abdel, go ahead.
First, just to help understand this chart that you passed out, is this average wage index, is that the same thing that we use to gauge how much of a raise we're giving our city staff? And has our city staff gotten this amount of increase over all of these years?
That's a good question for staff, I would ask.
It is definitely one of the items that we use. Now, one of the things that was plugged into here is if the wage index actually goes down, we use a combination of the wage index, what the what the state auditor uses for our tax calculations, and the CPI for the for the Rocky Mountain region, and we do a blended combination of those when I make my recommendation to the council. But those are the 3 indexes that are used every single year to make that recommendation to you all. Of course, a lot of that has gone away now because we're only applying it to an improvement of the chart because everyone is stepping through. Now that we have the step chart, I can't speak for going back to 1997. I wasn't here then, and so I don't know how it was done. And I really can't speak to how Mr. Berlin did things up until 3 years ago, what sort of thing he used. I know that I would see the AWI on his desk. It's really easily accessible. So that's from the staff perspective. What the increase has been over that amount of time, I could probably check for you and let you know if it has matched this amount.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Townsend.
For my own clarification, just to make sure I understand, with regard to our charter that the voters approved, I would not realize a salary change unless I was to be reelected in 2020.
Well, it's actually state law as well, but yes, not one of us would receive any kind of an increase while we're seated in office for this term of office. It would only take place for the person who was elected to that position after the next election cycle.
So we would vote on this, make a decision. If it goes to council for a vote, we wouldn't realize until if we are reelected.
That is correct, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Mr. Holman?
I'm in support of your proposal, sir. I would also state that I believe your figures for the mayoral position, I think, are still a little bit low, certainly less egregious than what they are currently. But if you look at our close neighbors in both proximity and size, that 1,000 per month doesn't get you to where Belton, say, and Grandview are paying. It's not too far off of, say, like Raytown, which is pretty close. They're a little bit more. It's going to be about $2,400 more a month. But another thing to remember, too, Raytown is landlocked and is not going to get any bigger. We are. And the duties are going to increase, as we've seen over the years. The position you currently hold, say even 5 years ago, did not have quite the demands on it that it does today, and those demands are only going to get greater. I don't know if I have support for it, but I would recommend more of a 1,200 range per month for the mayoral position.
Yes, Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also support your proposal, and I have to agree with Councilman Holman. You know, I drive by City Hall once or twice a day, and it seems like I see your vehicle here quite a bit, and I always do check for some reason. But I know you're not full-time, but you put in a lot more hours than I think was expected of you. So you're certainly earning it, and I support the proposal, and if somebody wanted to make that 1,200, I would support that as well, too. Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Abdelgawad.
I'll argue a little bit for the other side. I'm strongly against this. When I was looking at populations of some of the cities on the chart that you shared with us, I really couldn't find any of those cities to be comparable in size to Raymore. I tried to do a little bit of learning about what the annual budgets of some of those cities were, trying to think that there were different ways that we should try to compare besides just population, because there are some cities that have not such a great population because they have more businesses. So I tried to find comparative budget sizes, comparative populations, comparative maybe based on a full-time employee count. but I really had a hard time with any of the cities listed on this chart finding something comparable. I am curious about some other cities in Missouri, even though they're not in the Kansas City area, that might have a comparable population, like Rolla, Warrensburg, Nixa, Arnold, Sedalia. Those are some cities that I found that seem to have a population between the 19,000 to 21,000 range. It's hard to find this information just looking at websites, so I didn't have a whole lot of luck, but I was kind of disappointed with the proposal that it didn't have really, in my opinion, much that seemed to be an equal comparison.
While you're there, just as a thought too, it's kind of difficult to compare us to some of these other cities because we have adopted a charter. And so the charter does put, I think, a special onus on the elected officials as well as in opposition to what a fourth-class city might do. I've worked under the operation of both classifications of city, and I will tell you that there is more responsibility on the council, especially, maybe not so much the mayor, but the council especially, when you're talking about overseeing their own constitution, their statutes, and all the other things that go along with having your own charter form of government. Because the fourth-class cities are pretty much mandated by state law on how they can operate and what they can do. So there is that autonomy that comes with that charter also creates additional responsibility. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
I've been doing this for a while. I kind of I kind of know what being a council member is. I like looking, and this is, you have on here that you know, it hasn't been adjusted for quite some time, but it has come up and it has been discussed multiple times. I can think of at least 2 times, I might argue more than that since I've been on the council, that this has come up, and there's never been enough interest to bring it before the council in an actual meeting either of those 2 times. Some of the arguments that have come up in the past, generally council members, you can spend as much, you know, just like with any job, you can spend as much time doing it as you want. You can spend almost as little time doing it as you'd like. But, you know, roughly, I think when we've had the conversation before, on an average, we spend about 4 hours a week doing this job, which works out to be an hourly wage of $21.88 an hour. If you compare that with minimum wage, that's quite a bit higher than minimum wage. And thinking about the qualifications it actually takes to do this job, I don't know if we compared the qualifications for a council member with the qualifications to a similar city job, I might guess that the hourly wage for that job wouldn't be nearly $22 an hour. That's one of the reasons why I feel like this proposal isn't fair. Just throwing it out there, I don't feel like I do anything to deserve anything more. I know on multiple occasions council members have said, I didn't even realize this position came with pay. You know, I'm doing it because I want to do it. I'm not doing it for the money. We've talked also in the past about creating more of an incentive would encourage people to do it for the wrong reasons, to do it for the money and not because it's what's in their heart, because they're looking out for the best of the city. I might argue that I would prefer we pay people on some of our other boards before we put more money in our pockets. Our P&Z, those people work really hard. Our parks people who were just here, they work really hard at their jobs as well. I don't know what the guidelines are for paying those boards, but I would argue that that might be a better use of our money, or putting it back in the pockets of the people who work every day hard for this city. Those are a few of my arguments. I have lots of questions. I wonder, how will it improve our city? How will it improve the work that we do? I don't think paying council members more is going to improve our city, or paying the mayor more is going to improve our city. I've never heard that there are better qualified candidates maybe who don't serve or run because we don't get paid that much. I think it would be hard to argue that we would get better people on the council if we paid more. I don't feel like we're lacking candidates because of pay, excluding people who just flat say, you could never pay me enough to do that job. You know, people who want to do the job are going to try to do the job, try to be elected. I don't think that increasing the pay is going to get us better people on the council, which would be the thing that I could see that might make it an improvement to the city. I feel like that any of us on this board, given a request for a pay increase of this size by any other person in the city, imagine what your face would look like. I mean, I think that's ridiculous. I asked a few people in the city, and their face probably looked like ours would look, given a proposal from city staff for this sizable of an increase to any of our other employees. I don't know how you guys feel. Would you do a better job if you got paid more? Do we need an incentive to help us do a better job in this position? Is there ever a time when you think, oh, I'm not going to go to that joint city meeting because I don't get paid enough? You know, that's kind of goes back to, I'm not sure how it will really improve our city. I think we're doing this because it's in our hearts. I think we're doing it because we care about where we live in our community. I don't feel like the work that we do in this position, and considering that it's in our hearts, it's part of our service to the city, grants this kind of a pay raise for any of us. I wonder if we create this pay raise and then create additional requirements for council members, then are we kind of moving away from the point of this position to be someone from any part of life that chooses to be a representative for the public in our city, and that adding additional requirements to then justify additional pay might exclude certain types of people from seeking this position. So I fear that if an argument is that we will have additional requirements because we are getting additional pay. So I guess that's kind of my piece. I am adamantly against this. I have talked to people, other people in the city are against it. I think, I don't know how I could justify this kind of pay increase for myself to the public in Raymore.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Berenson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll get to a couple of points that she made, and one of which I agree with. I don't want anybody to want this position for the money. That would be wrong if we paid enough, that we created an incentive to want to run for city council just for the money alone. And I don't think that $600 a month for a city councilman or $1,000 a month for a mayor would do that. I'm also going to, the other side of that, you know, I look at myself 25 years ago, I would have been a terrible city councilman because I was only in my 20s at the time and not ready for this, but I was working at a job in a restaurant where I worked shift work. If you take somebody like that now that wanted to run for this position, you know, you've got 4 meetings every month, you've got other events you go to, you probably spend a couple hours a week answering emails, making phone calls to constituents and other people. I would say I, on an average month, work at least 30 hours a week doing this, and sometimes I work 40 hours a month doing this. If there are people that are working jobs that they have to take off time from work to do this position, is it fair for them to lose money to do this? Just a thought that I had, you know, is it for $350 a month, I think is what we make now. Can somebody afford to do this if they have to take off work every Monday to come do this position? So just a little bit I had on the other side of that. And I'll add one more thing too. I think on the ballot when we brought this to the voters, was it 97%? Well, what was
89%.
89% of the voters
to review.
Agreed that we should review our salary. It's unfortunate too that this has been neglected for so many years. I don't want to vote for a pay increase, but I think it's overdue, and I think it needs to happen. I want to rip the Band-Aid off and get it done. It's a shame that it's taken this long to correct it, but again, I support your proposal, Mr. Mayor, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was noticing one of this, maybe more than one, but at least one of the cities had, I want to say, $100 per meeting. And I don't think it would be, when we talk about the amount that some people, the amount of meetings they go to as opposed to other council members, I don't think we would want to get into a situation where we say, okay, well, you went to Missouri Municipal League meeting, you went to League of Cities meetings, you went to the Joint Cities meetings, you've got your certification from Missouri Municipal League as a certified official. I don't think we want to have 2 sliding scales of pay for people that are doing meetings that are not part of our normal schedule, but there are quite a few of us that have been giving quite a bit of time outside of the city, representing the city on a county region, at the North County region or the Kansas City region itself, going to meetings in Smithville or where have you. But I think definitely, like any job, you can volunteer to do more, or you can volunteer to do just the minimum. And I think we are all here to serve the public, but I think sometimes some of us have more opportunity to go to extra meetings than others. And I don't think that's something we would want to get into, where we would say, well, you did this amount as opposed to some other people. And but I do think there should become some compensation if you spend a year on a commission that's outside of the purveyance. I think definitely there's more that you can do or less that you can do in this job. So, but I'm in support of this.
Well, having been at a leadership level in city government since 1983, I never really looked at the mayor's position until I began to run for the position in 2016, and then once elected, then realized some of the additional responsibilities that came with that job. One of which is being an ombudsman for different charitable organizations within the community. A lot of them will tap me on the shoulder, as they probably have done other mayors in the past, and ask them to participate in fundraising measures. And as many of you know that have been involved in that, it's hard to ask people for money if you don't have some skin in the game yourself. And one of the things that I've been able to do with the pay that I have for mayor is to be able to be that ombudsman, be able to be that person that kind of primes the pump for those opportunities. So I would say probably 50 to 60% of my salary goes to charitable organizations. And frankly, you know, even if we did that and you had this opposition to it, that, you know, you can maybe do that too through the foundation efforts. But you know, it really, I think it does give us an opportunity to do more for the community when we have a little bit more that we can utilize as resources for those purposes, and to help justify all the additional meetings that I found out were part of the responsibility being mayor as well. It's not going to be relieved if I leave office. I mean, the next person in is going to have to do that as well. And I'm just kind of looking out for the integrity of the position. There has been talk in other communities of increases as I talk to mayors throughout the community over the last couple of years. It is a very hard subject to talk about, giving yourself a raise. And it's not really, it's for the next office, but many of the offices have gone uncontested in the past as well. So I don't know, I just feel like for the mayor's position, in order to be a little bit more effective, it does give that person more expense funds that you can provide more to the community, whether it's travel, whether it's charitable. And frankly, I'd like to give a little bit more, but I'm on a fixed income as a retiree, so, you know, it would help as well. Yes, Mr. Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of points, and you answered one of the questions I was going to ask as well with regard to the additional meetings the mayor attends as in your capacity. Mr. Bernstein spoke earlier as well with regard to the commitments and the balance between compensation and activities, and I think Mr. Burke as well. One other point I wanted to also highlight, or for my own clarification too, is our previous mayors have been retired. I don't know how far back we go as far as having retired.
I mean, they have some during office, some retired coming into office.
I see.
But many of them have been retired, yeah.
I see. So, and to Mr. Bernstein's point earlier, allows the ability to, because you have, you know, more time, the And then with the compensation, the fixed income to try to, with the additional meetings, I think this proposal is appropriate because if we are, as we go forward, as our community grows, there may be others who are not retired that would look for an opportunity to serve, but because they would have to use their vacation time or their sick time to participate in the meetings that would, in the activities that the position encourages you to attend. So while we may have a restriction or we may have a perception that increasing salary is to increase my retirement fund to my investments, I didn't join this for that purpose. My daughter makes more at Hy-Vee than I do doing this. So I think it's appropriate. It's not, while it's percentage-wise, it seems like it's a huge increase, given the role in particular to the mayor and those who do other things as far as a council member to be in front of the community, whether it's an extension of your current things with family and friends and organizations you already participate in, or whether you join them as a result of your participation on a council. It engenders dues, it engenders, like you said, other compensation as far as fundraising and such, because it puts you in the community in various capacities, to hear from them directly on their concerns, to bring it back to this council for discussion. And again, it's for the next generation of council members, whoever that may be. So I am in favor of it, given the statistics and the numbers that are laid out in comparison to some of the other cities and some of the things that they are presented with. I question why. It's amazing, some of the things I see on the docket that they receive, and to be able to justify that, if it's that a all or none or it's a prorated rate based on what they actually do and prove, is interesting to see. But the proposal and the way it's laid out tonight, and then just again preparing our city for growth as we challenge our staff to be the professionals that they are, and we challenge Mr. Fearborn to recruit the best, and we do our best to Mrs. Abdelgawad's concerns to compensate them fairly for their work, as it's been addressed with their step in their salaries. Again, it's based on performance. It's not just a carte blanche. You've served your time, so here's your increase. It's obviously based on performance-based things of that sort. So I believe in how it's addressed tonight and how it's been presented tonight, I would agree with the proposal as it's been presented.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Burke?
One last point, as I was listening, I did some calculations. My son works as a lifeguard for Belton Parks and Rec, and since school's been out last, I think it was, well, he's been working for a week part-time, and he's already made more than what council makes in a month in 1 week as a lifeguard, and he's very happy because he's never had a job before. So I'm very excited for him, but that's interesting perspective as a part-time lifeguard in 1 week.
Anyone else? Mr. Circo?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I've heard everything said, and I look back at people vote for people in this office, hopefully because they have integrity, understanding of what they're doing as a councilman or a mayor. They just don't put anybody in office. People are smarter than that in Raymore. So I don't worry about somebody coming up because they can make $500 or $600 a month as a councilman. Is going to alleviate all their bills and all great. When you can make $1,400 a month if you're on unemployment in the state of Missouri, doing nothing. But I don't think that would have a problem or a bearing in anybody. They're going to vote the right people for the right choices, who they know, who they respect, and who they've known's been around, done the work for the city and the community, and been here. And that's why people vote. Another thing, I tell people all the time, if you're running for a city council job in Raymore or Belton, these places for prestige and money and fame, forget it. You're not getting any of it. You want to run for council and get money, do like my cousin Cindy, be in Kansas City. It'll take you a long ways. But if you're not there, we do it because we love the city. I ran a few times and lost some close races and won this race, not because I didn't have nothing to do. I did it because I love the city. My family's lived here. I've been here. My business was here for 20 years, still here through Mike, and I know a lot of business owners. I love the community, where we're going with it, and that's why I ran for council. Of course, I wouldn't see a raise because it would affect, if I ran in 2020 and won, then I'd see it, so it's not for me, it's for the future. But so that's what I'm saying, it's not the finances. I think we do need it. The mayor does a lot of work, and if you start looking at what the mayor does and how much travel and things he has to do to put us on the map and keep us for the next 20 years growing for him, the next mayor's coming down if he retires and leaves or whatever, it's big. It's a large looming situation and problem that we have, which is a good problem. But 1,000 here, 600 for the councilman, it's nothing when you look at our budget, our city, our growth. I mean, when you look at the income, average income of Raymore compared to average income of Belton, it's quite significantly different. And people here, 89%, thought we should be looking into this for what they felt the penance, little pennies that we get, but it wasn't for money. I don't think none of us run here for the paycheck or the prestige of running around saying I'm a council person. They did it because they love the community. And they work hard. And I've already had a lot of phone calls in my short time. I've taken pictures, I've gone out. Hey, I love doing it. I did it for 20 years with insurance. I had thousands of insureds, and I was always getting calls day and night. And you know what? Step up to the plate, call them back, and get a response, and that's how you deal with people, because that's what they deserve. They vote you in. You're here to listen to them and be their voice and try to work with the city and the people. You need to correlate them with the businesses. These three hats have got to come together, and you got to wear them. And that's what council people on the mayor does. And they tie up, we make these decisions, and we have a great staffing of the city people and our police and everybody else all work and correlate together. So really when you talk about the kind of money we're talking, that's been sitting here not on the table, and we're in 2018, and we're moving fast into the forward and into the future. Raymore has, as we know as council people, that a lot of people don't know, we got a lot of great things coming this way for this community. We got a great future. And people are going to come here, and people who are of high esteem, high income, high prestige, they want to live here in Raymore. They don't want to live anywhere else. There's a reason. So listen, yeah, when they start looking at me and myself, if I was coming here, I'd be thinking, well, if they're only paying these people that much, who do we got? We got nobody. I mean, you know, it would be sometimes like a misnomer to some of these people because we do the work. And so I have a lot of people ask me all the time, how much you going to get paid? I said, listen, I'm out here for the money, but at the time I knew from other people, it's like $350 a month. What? $350 a month? That's all they give you? They expect a lot out of you, don't they? So it doesn't matter. We're doing it because we love the city, again. So I'm for it. I think it's a good thing to move forward to into the future because we're here now, but 20 years we're going to be here, but we need to go forward, not backwards. And I've always been a guy that says if you look back, you can't do anything. Because when you're looking back, you're not going forward, you're not going anywhere, you're stalled. But I think it's a good idea. I think the mayor brought up a good point here. And it's not about finances. It's not about giving me enough money because now I retired and so my business that I need from $350 to $600 months going, wow, that's going to put me over in Hawaii or something. That's not going to happen. So it's not about the money. I think it's just about the principle. That's all it is. But we all love the city. We're all here for it because we love the city and not because we're looking for a big payday. Thank you.
Ms. Abdullah.
I was just going to share, one of my other concerns is, you know, Mr. Mayor, I know you work hard and you're a part of lots of organizations and you are here lots of days of the week, but the charter isn't changing. The requirement of the job isn't changing. So sure, we can say you work hard, you deserve it, but who's to say that the next mayor isn't going to come in and just do the minimum? And then I guess my fear is with this change, then you're not paying someone based on their effort. You're paying them just for the charter minimum, and the charter minimum is not changing. That's my one of my remaining concerns. My second one is the city budget, and I know in your memo you said that fully implemented it will be $40,800 to $69,600 for the increase. And I'm just concerned about that because in my last meeting with Jim, he said he was recommending to all of the department heads that they present their budget with as many cuts as they could and no expansion items. So here we are with an expansion item when we're telling staff and telling our departments we can't spend any extra money.
Yeah, well, I didn't put this together in a vacuum either, Sonia. I talked to Mr. Feuerborn a lot about it, and he said it would not, this amount here would not impact the budget because of what's allowed for mayor and council kind of flexibility, so to speak. Mr. Kellogg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to try to not say as much as I've been thinking about for the last week, because I really don't feel that, me ruffling feathers is going to do any good. I have not supported increased council pay with the times that it's come up, and I still don't now. The questions that I've gotten each and every time that this has come up is, how is this going to bring us an Olive Garden sooner? What's this going to do? And seriously, that's the question I'm posed with. And I know exactly when I get home tonight, as soon as I get to my iPhone, that I'll have that text message saying, Kevin, please call me. I know he's sitting there at home watching right now. And I don't disagree with that. I don't buy into the theory that just because you throw money at something that is perceived a problem, that it's going to fix the perceived problem.
I didn't say anything was broken.
I'm not saying
I didn't say anything was broken.
No, I know that, Mr. Mayor, and I'm not throwing that at you. But that is the perception that I know that I'm going to hear about. I just know it. The argument that I would argue against is that, that increasing it to whatever it is. I don't even, tell you the truth, I forget how much money I get out of this a month because I don't want to know. I would rather do this for nothing, but that's me, that's my passion. And I'm not, I would argue that this could, in what I'm thinking right now, could prevent somebody from choosing to run for council. That would probably be somebody that is like a single parent that is on limited income, like a welfare income. Would this put them over the point to where that now they're making too much money that they lose their benefit? That might be far-fetched, but that's true. So, I just can't buy into the argument that, that this wouldn't affect, the pool of people that could run. There's too much. I don't know. I don't support it, and I really, I've said over the years, many things, and my mind hasn't changed, and it won't. I mean, I can't. If I'm gonna leave it alone. I just can't support it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Mr. Holman.
Thank you, sir. Again, I'll restate my position. I support this, and I support a slightly higher amount for the mayoral position. I would maintain, first of all, as you pointed out in your literature, this position has not received a raise in 2 decades, over 2 decades, 20 years. Which negates, I believe, a little bit of your argument about if somebody were asking for a raise for a position within the city. If we had not given that person a raise in 20 years, I don't think the eyebrows would be raised as much. I do believe there are certainly a number of cities on here that are comparable to us. Belton, at a minimum, is very comparable to us. And they're next door. Their population is very similar. And there's a couple of other cities on here as well. Bottom line, if you believe in nothing else, we are not the city of 20 years ago. We are moving into the future. And we are not only a first-class city in stature, but we are the flagship city of the county, in my opinion, and of the region soon. And if we are going to be a first-class city, we must be a first-class city in all aspects, across the board, for all of our people and everything that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Well, I've instructed staff that after we had an opportunity to talk about it tonight in an open forum, that we would still put it on the agenda for June the 25th for your consideration. And if there is nothing else on that, we'll go ahead and move forward with that. Anybody have anything else at this time? If not, we'll move on to other items. I think we did talk about one already with the multiple ribbon cuttings in Memorial Park for June the 21st? 21st, is that right? And did you have anything else, sir?
We do have one other item. I'm going to call on the chief to introduce this to you all, and it involves another invitation for you.
as if you all don't have enough things to go to. We recently, and thank you to Mr. Icky for putting this together, and Mr. Cataret for coming up with the HOA leadership from throughout our community. We've been experiencing problems in neighborhoods that have pools. And my apartment complex is actually one of those, because my apartment faces the pool and they're out there splashing around at 1 o'clock in the morning. So we decided that from a safety perspective that we would like to invite not only the HOA leadership from those neighborhoods with pools, but also any members, any citizens that live in those communities to come and talk to us about some, possible at least ways to address those. We certainly respond anytime folks call the police, but some of the things that the HOAs are looking to do, might possibly address some of those concerns. It's certainly a safety perspective when those young folks are out there drinking, they're out there in the water, we run a high risk of there possibly being some tragic accident that might occur at one of those pools late at night when alcohol is involved. And so what we've done is, and this is where the invitation comes in, we have sent out a letter to the HOA leadership of all of those neighborhoods that have pools to invite them to come to sort of a town hall meeting to discuss pool safety, how they might better secure those areas, and some of the things that the neighbors who live around those pools might be able to do to address that. So it really is just going to be an open conversation to talk about better safety in those areas and how we might all assist each other, since we can't be everywhere all at the same time. So if you want to put on your calendars, Thursday, June the 14th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Centerview. And again, that letter went out, Mike, this morning, to all of those individual neighborhoods that have swimming pools. So 6:30 to 8 p.m. at Centerview. Is that a question for me, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wondered, because I remember that Ward Park Place, the neighborhood out there has a park. I don't recall if they have a swimming pool. Do they have a swimming pool?
Yes.
They do? Okay, so since they have a swimming pool, they'll be included. But I was wondering if some of the other neighborhoods that may only have a playground or experience some of the similar problems also seasonally, or would it be beneficial or to invite them also, see if there's any kind of parallels that could be gleaned off or helped out with too. I don't know how many of the neighborhoods that have parks have swimming pools.
We haven't had any reports of any problems at those. Now, really we do have, tis the season. We see an increase in items at the parks that we're responsible for. Yeah. Folks stay out a little bit later, and there's more time on folks' hands. So, but even from the standpoint of having a private playground area within an HOA, I'm not sure, with the exception of that one, that there are any.
I'm thinking of the neighborhood behind Culver's, that they put in their own playground there too. I know that they've got one there, and I don't know if they're experiencing any problems there. Those are mostly all leases.
We haven't received any phone calls.
Okay.
On that particular issue.
Okay.
We have received phone calls on this particular issue.
Oh, yeah, I'm
extensively.
Sure.
A lot. But you all are welcome to come, please, or spread the word to all of those neighborhoods, because it's not just the HOA leadership that we're looking for. Any citizens that would like to come and participate in the conversation, we would welcome that. And we're just getting some safety tips. Obviously, a large part of the conversation will be about notifying the police department, if someone's out there and they don't belong. And we're working with some of the neighborhood associations already about giving us the capability to get that complaint signed if it's simply a trespassing issue rather than a noise disturbance issue, because there are a couple of different things that factor into what our police response would be.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Any questions of Chief? Mr. Townsend, yes?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Chief and Mr. Akey, and definitely City Manager, because I had called and asked for conversation of this such, because in our development, there has been some, as City Manager has said, there has been some incidents within our own pool area that seems to be cyclic every season, that seems to pop up. And this year, it seems to be, had been a little more aggressive in their efforts and their activities. And I just asked the city to, from a general consensus, is this systemic across the city seasonally? And unbeknownst to me, it was. And this is an excellent opportunity to kind of get the citizens who've asked me questions about what can the city do, what can the homeowners association can do. So this is an excellent opportunity to get all parties concerned together to kind of talk things out and hopefully walk away with a better understanding and probably some solutions that collectively they can work together to kind of stem this. As with anything, it may not eliminate it completely, but hopefully it'll reduce it. And there are some excellent opportunities and conversations out of it. So thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else? Do you have anything else, Mr. Fairmore?
No, sir.
If no one has anything else under other, we call the meeting to a close. Thank you.